The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms. Merry meet! Welcome to another episode of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I am thrilled to chat with Kris Spisak. Kris is an author, word historian, editor, and workshop leader whose books include Baba Yaga's Mask, Get a Grip on Your Grammar, the novel editing workbook, and her newest book out in September called Becoming Baba Yaga, Trickster, Feminist, and Witch of the Woods. Welcome, Kris.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to chat with you. How's your day going?
My day is going fabulously. Sometimes when you have a chance to just get outside and just soak in the sun on a beautiful day, all is well with the world, even no matter what's going on with the world. Just a couple minutes of that can help the cause.
Absolutely. Where are you located?
I'm in Virginia.
Nice. Okay. So the wheel of the year is turning towards Mabon, and you have an exciting new book launch coming up, and I'm just really excited to start unpacking some questions. So are you ready to go?
Absolutely. Talking about Baba Yaga is one of my favorite subjects before the book and after the book, of course.
Yeah, me too. Let's get rolling. So how did your interest in Baba Yaga begin?
Well, I am Ukrainian, so hearing stories about Baba Yaga is something that has been as a part of my life as anything else in my entire childhood. We spoke Ukrainian and had our best Ukrainian manners around my grandparents' dinner table, and we learned Ukrainian dances and Ukrainian arts. And we heard Ukrainian stories, some of which fell into the folktale category, some of which were entrenched in much deeper beliefs. And that's where Baba Yaga first appeared.
You were a young child growing up on the East Coast area, and you had a Ukrainian family, so that's amazing. And so, Baba Yaga, can you tell us a bit about how you became an author and the significance of words and grammar and stories in your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have always been a storyteller, and I have been so lucky in my life to be surrounded by so many amazing storytellers. Some people who told true stories. For example, I grew up hearing World War II stories from my grandparents about Ukraine's experience in World War II, which was a perspective that the greater world is not that familiar with. But I've also been surrounded by storytellers like my mother and my father, who both are great with kind of playing with, well, what's the origin of that word? Or what's a great story that could be a bedtime story for me as a small child about great female warriors and all of this stuff. So I've always been surrounded by so many great storytellers. And as I grew and went through my schooling and found kind of my professional path, I've really come to realize that well-written words and well-told stories have the impact to change the world, no matter whether you're writing your resume or whether you are crafting the story of your family to be remembered for the rest of history, whatever that means to you. And that's where my book started coming. My first book is called Get a Grip on Your Grammar, and it's really an exploration of the English language, because sometimes we don't know the subtleties of communicating well. And that doesn't have to be a conversation about falling asleep or getting angry at each other. It's just about doing better and empowering ourselves. So that's where that came from. And really, I've played in storytelling, fiction, nonfiction, all over the place. But it wasn't until I wrote my first novel, which you mentioned, it's called the Baba Yaga Mask, and I was talking to book clubs. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting here talking about Baba Yaga, and there were so many wide eyes that people did not know this character who I was convinced this character, this goddess, this presence, she could be so many things to so many different people. But no, there were so many people who were not familiar with her. And that's where knew I needed to go further.
Words, it just came to my mind how often, how much we're on our phones and just kind of
Right,
texting, and how our grammar and words get chopped
right.
because we're on our phones. Do you think that has a direct impact on how our language is moving and developing?
Absolutely. I mean, what is more important than one human connecting with another human? We use our words for this. We use our body language for this. There's so many ways that humans connect, but sometimes in our rapid speed world, we don't connect as well as we could because we're just feeling rushed or it's just so easy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that the moment we pause and pay attention a little bit more, and isn't that such life advice for anything we're doing? The moment you pause and pay attention and are in the moment of what you're doing, suddenly you'll find this profound growth in your soul and your meticulous detail of what you're doing. And yes, whether it's communications or storytelling or having that moment with your family, paying attention makes a difference.
Yes. Words have wings.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your new book, Becoming Baba Yaga, Trickster, Feminist, and Witch of the Woods, and what inspired you to write this book?
Right. So great question. I love talking about this. So yeah, so I was going to a lot of book clubs, and I still am going to a lot of book clubs about my debut novel, The Baba Yaga Mask. And that story is a moment where I had a chance to really talk about Ukraine's story in World War II, because a lot of people know World War II stories, but they don't know the Ukrainian history, where you have Soviet attacks on one side and Nazi Germany coming in on the other
Mm,
side. And there were
yeah.
these 2 weeks in 1941 that Western Ukraine claimed as independence. 2 weeks in 1941. And I wanted to tell that story. So I did it in a dual timeline story going back and forth between two sisters in the present day on a mad or wild goose chase trying to find their grandmother who had lost herself in present day Eastern Europe. And it goes back and forth between the grandmother as a teenager and the sisters trying to find her. And they're unpacking Ukrainian history and their family history and the folk tales that they always grew up with, including the Baba Yaga tales. And again, going through those book clubs, still, I love chatting in depth about her because so many people are unfamiliar with this witch of the woods or this earth goddess, however you want to see her, who lives in a chicken-legged hut, has the ability to turn around and walk away if she doesn't want to speak with you. This woman who has a fence of bones around the house, and you can look at those fence of bones in terms of these are people who perhaps something has gone badly for them involving Baba Yaga, or these are the souls that she is honoring, because in so many legends and tales and recountings, she is the one who helps transport people from the moment of life to the moment after death. And there's so many stories and legends of Baba Yaga over 2,000 years when you really
Really?
start
I didn't
digging
know
into the
that long.
historical.
Wow.
Right, right. And
Okay.
sometimes when you start going, she only appears in text down to what, 1755 was the first time she appeared in writing. But then you start tracing back, tracing back, tracing back. If the first time she appears in writing was in 1755 in a book where she is listed among deities of the world, and that's
Huh.
not the first introduction of her. If she's listed in a text about the deities of the world, and that's the introduction, that's not the beginning of her story.
Yeah. So she is a very complex and ambiguous goddess and folktale character. I'm just fascinated by Baba Yaga. I wrote a meditation and narrated in my last audiobook about Baba Yaga meeting her and having that experience. I just, I want to know more. So,
Absolutely.
how did Baba Yaga become Baba Yaga? I mean, she start with a different name as a goddess, earth goddess, perhaps, or I
There
guess. Hmm.
Absolutely. There is such a twisting and turning historical record of a earth goddess figure, a divine feminine figure in Eastern Europe. And she appears with many different names. And at first glance, you'd say, oh, wait, these are all different characters who popped up. But there's common threads that arises between them. For example, there was a earth goddess who was known to have a throne that was a pestle, excuse me, that was a mortar, and she had a pestle in her hands like a staff. Well, then you fast forward to stories of Baba Yaga. She is
Yeah.
not known as a witch who flies through the air on a broom. She's known as a presence who flies through the air in a massive mortar with a pestle kind of as a paddle
Yeah.
paddling along.
A
You
force
can
of
look
nature.
exactly. You can look to this divine feminine presence 2,000 years ago. There is a culture that's kind of been lost to time that was around the time of ancient Egypt. There was actually a different um, historical culture, a very active this is, excuse me, this is 7,000 years ago. It's Cucuteni, Trypillia. It's a culture
Hmm.
that we haven't learned a whole lot about in history classes
Yeah.
because it was a culture that always burned down their structures and then often moved to different locations. So if you're always burning down your structures of your civilization and moving down, even if you have city centers with tens of thousands of people in it, you don't have massive marble monuments. You don't have massive architectural feats that are preserved to history and easy to discover. But as archaeologists have dug into Ukraine and Russia and let's see, Slovakia, Moldova, multiple areas of that region, they're finding more and more evidence of this culture. And there are pottery that was more advanced than ancient Egyptian pottery. And so much of that pottery was dedicated to this divine feminine. The
Interesting.
so there are such deep roots when you start exploring the divine feminine in Eastern Europe, and the crumbs kind of start finding little connections. And I think Baba Yaga has old, old roots. It's like an old game of telephone. One person starts the story and it's told and it's told, and there are different versions here and there. And I think what we're left with is the legends and stories and presence of Baba Yaga, this fierce feminist force who's out to empower women, but not make any apologies along the way.
Why is Baba Yaga, the crone or witch of the woods in Slavic folklore, considered a feminist archetype?
Well, there are so many moments in the contemporary world, or in many centuries past, where as women age, they disappear.
Right.
Baba Yaga's having none of that.
Oh no. No, she's
She
she's there forever.
Exactly. She's there forever. And she is this wise woman that people have always gone to for advice, whether it's the classic stories of Vasilisa, who is
Mm.
going to her in the woods on the command of her stepmother, whether it is 1,000 princes named Ivan, because it's just like in English folk tales how the protagonist is always named Jack. In Slavic folk tales, if it's not Vasilisa, it's Ivan, I swear. Go to this woman because she has knowledge or she has something that they need. So she's respected but feared at the same time.
Yeah.
And she only bestows gifts and knowledge and wisdom and transformation upon those she deems worthy. This is not about sacrificing or giving money to her or something like this. She doesn't have desires for that type of stuff. But if you prove yourself worthy, and it's always the same story, you have to prove yourself brave. You have to
Hmm.
prove yourself clever. You have to
Hmm.
prove yourself good-hearted, and you have to prove yourself hardworking. It's
Yeah.
always those four ideas. And if you can prove that to her, she can help with your transformation to the next moment of your life of getting through whatever struggle you are. On the opposite side of that, if you don't prove yourself worthy, she might not react well.
Yeah, and you end up on a skull on a fence of bones.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to go through an initiation and development, and then you somehow emerge reborn through
Exactly,
Baba Yaga.
exactly. There's not a lot of analysis of her house, and sometimes people think of her house on chicken legs almost as this womb type
I was going to ask
presence that
you.
for those who enter, they are reborn inside, and when they exit this womb, they are stronger and have this new life because of their time with her. And that's
Ah,
just fascinating to me.
yes, the chicken legs, the head with the chicken legs is so interesting. It's just, I'm wondering where that came from in folklore. Like you say, it could have been passed down and reiterated and morphed, through thousands of years of storytelling. But
Right.
I'm just wondering why the chicken legs? Why the head
There's
on the chicken leg?
there's a couple theories on that. One, there's a long legacy of bird-like goddesses
Oh,
in the area, and
okay.
so okay, could be playing with something like this. It could be playing with the idea of kind of birds in some Ukrainian legends are the only beings on Earth who know the way to the other world where people have departed, and they can go and see those who have been beyond before, but they
Oh.
always return to the land of the living. So, okay, is Baba Yaga's hut twisted up in that? Other people have said, well, you know what? She's just a really thoughtful, crafty woman, and she doesn't want to waste a single part of that chicken. So maybe she roasted the rest of it. But what are you going to do with those legs? You stick them on your house, right?
Just in case you have to move fast.
I know. It was just really good thinking, making sure she's not wasting any bit of her food.
Yeah. Boy, so she's really, to me, she's just fascinating because she can be dark and evil, like a villain, terrifying, and then at the same time, a hero and can, transform you into the highest, your highest good or highest self. So, and she's also, like you said, a gatekeeper to the spirit realm. So there's so many aspects of her. And I'm just wondering if
That's
it also like ties back into feminism and how women defining women or women's relationship to the wild. Um,
absolutely.
you know, there's
Absolutely. And this is why I had to write the book, right? Becoming Baba
yeah,
Yaga, Trickster, Feminist, and Witch of the Woods. This is not a simple conversation. She is
yeah,
not a character who is a Disney evil villain of classic Disney with a cackle, and that's the end of her story. She's not this evil character. She's so incredibly complex. And again, that idea of her as an herbalist and her as this
yeah.
wise old woman. Again, what is her mode of transportation? She is uses this mortar. So think about what the purpose of a mortar is.
Yes, to transform one element into
Exactly,
another.
exactly. And whether you are muddling herbs, whether you are mixing ointments, whether you are muddling a cocktail, I mean, whatever it is
Yeah.
you're doing, there's a transformation happening there. And the ingredients so often are coming out of nature. In so many of her legends, she is this earth goddess type figure who understands the earth and the animals and the people as one of the creatures on earth, as kind of an equal level animal with every other.
Hmm.
And it's fascinating to kind of see how she handles that.
Yeah. And she lives in the woods, in the dark
Mhm.
woods, high in the mountains, away
Exactly.
from civilization or away from the villages, right?
Exactly. So it's always a quest, right? It's always a
Yeah.
quest if one chooses to go after her. So often people think about her as in terms of this evil witch who's off to come and get you, but in the majority of the stories, and I will say the majority because any character that has lasted this long, she has so many different derivations of so many different stories from so many different stories with so many different goals to their storytelling that twist her legends in different ways. But the majority of her stories begin when someone seeks out her. She is not usually going after people.
Right.
She
They
becomes a
come to
part of the
her.
story exactly when they come to her, and then the magic happens. Then the transformation begins or the terror begins, depending on the moment.
Yeah. And then I was reading in your book, there's royalty. You
Mm,
mentioned several queens and like sons of czars or daughters of czars that are
yes,
part of the history and storytelling of Baba
exactly.
Yaga intertwined. It's beautiful.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that a lot of the stories have Prince Ivans and Queen Marevnas and so many pieces in the stories. But then you can look back in the historical record and you can realize that Catherine the Great of Russia
Right.
loved Baba Yaga stories. There was once a opera that was put on in the court of Catherine the Great, where Baba Yaga was the central character. And my favorite part of this is she was not this cackling witch who was stirring up evil. In the opera performed in Catherine the Great's court, the entire opera ended with Baba Yaga as the sole figure left on stage, singing a song about hope for the rest of the world. I mean, really, who saw that
Oh,
coming?
fascinating. That's fascinating. She's a savior.
Exactly. So it depends on her story. It depends on the teller. I mean, that's the truth for all of us, right? It really depends on who's telling the story and what you're going to get. But she has fascinations when you just dig in.
Yeah. And it just makes me think of how complex we are. I mean, there's many sides to us and
Right.
we time travel and we shape shift. I mean, we're not just linear people who are born, we work, we pay bills, and then we die. We're multifaceted and we change and
Absolutely.
evolve and grow, and we have different sides to us. I just think she's really a great symbol and archetype for who we are.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm not the same person I was at 12. I'm not the same person I
Yeah,
was at 20. And you can see that in her too. She has evolved according to the cultures that she has been surrounded by. But to your moment of just being ageless, she also reminds us those gray hairs don't have to freak us out. Own it, right? It's just
that's right.
wisdom and wrinkles. You know what? That's okay. That's just wisdom. And you know what? Some people might be afraid of who Baba Yaga becomes. But you know what? She just says, you know what? I'm never going to feel bad about anything. I'm going to just own my wisdom and own the fact that I can do so much helping and almost this kind of fairy godmother like presence in so many different ways, but in unexpected ways. You've got to earn it with her.
Right. And she protects the wild, the woods, the
Mhm.
animals in the woods. She's usually
Exactly.
working with them for her magic.
Exactly. And it's fun because she doesn't have a sidekick per se who is always doing her bidding. Animals frequently appear in her stories where
Yeah.
sometimes she's working with black geese and sometimes she's working with crows. Sometimes she's having arguments with hedgehogs. And gosh, I love those stories. Um, but again, like even arguments with hedgehogs, there's a record that goes back thousands of years of a snake-like character and a hedgehog-like character in arguments. This goes back to Greek mythology. This goes back a long, long time in different world storytelling traditions about this hedgehog versus snake thing. In some versions of Baba Yaga tales, she has a snake tail.
Mm.
There's a little piece of science fun hiding in that one because hedgehogs are one of the few mammals that scientists are aware of that actually are impervious to venom. So hedgehogs and snakes, like that's a fair battle. I think it's fascinating.
Wow, that is fascinating. Why is Baba Yaga relevant to us in 2024? And what does she teach us, especially women? I think you touched on that a little bit about the power and the wisdom of aging, but
Absolutely. Well, we are living in such a strange moment. There's so many adjectives I could fill in that blank. I'll,
yes,
I'll just go with strange. We're living in a strange moment of history
yes.
that in so many ways horror surrounds us. And at the same time, in so many ways, hope surrounds us. We're living in this moment that terrifies us, but inspires us depending on what direction we look in. And who better to speak to that than Baba Yaga, who is such a presence of hope and horror, of both the magic and the mundane. Studying her actually lets us understand our own lives and this moment in history from a different perspective in a way that kind of can settle our souls a little bit and can realize, wait a second, if I keep being my best person who is respectful, who is hardworking, who is brave, who is, I lost one. Oh, who is always thinking and being intelligent as best we can, if we keep working on those four traits of ourselves, we can come out better in the end, no matter what the horror or fear is that we face.
And
So,
having integrity.
yes, exactly. No matter what we are facing. And it's the same as Vasilisa or Natasha or Maria Morovna. There are all of these stories that all of these protagonists, especially the female protagonists, those who hit those traits are empowered for it. And I think sometimes studying folk tales, studying old world stories and beliefs can remind us that we're doing okay, and that if we hang in there and live our lives as best as we can, no matter what is going on behind us, that great things are still ahead.
And we can be the heroes of our own life.
Absolutely.
Well, this is just absolutely fascinating. I want to learn more. You've inspired me to learn more about Baba Yaga. So what are some of your upcoming plans for the future? We know, when is your new book coming out? First off.
So, Becoming Baba Yaga comes out on September 3rd, 2024, in both paperback and audiobook and ebook, of
Woo.
course. So yes, no matter
Okay.
what your listening pleasure or reading pleasure is, it's out there for you. So it's very exciting. And this entire fall, especially in September and October, my calendar is quite full of events and workshops, both in person and virtual. So really, if anybody wants to dive in for any longer in-depth lectures and workshops on who Baba Yaga is and how she can empower us all, please tune in. I would love to have anybody join me for those, because those are going to be some fabulous conversations ahead, especially in September and October 2024. But I have more scheduled for 2025, of course, because if you can't tell, I love talking about world storytelling and specifically Baba Yaga. So
Do you
I
have
have
a
that going.
website? Do you have a website where people can learn more about you and your writing?
Absolutely. So it is my name, KrisSpisak.com. So it's Kris with a K, Kris hyphen Spisak, Spisak. And for those who have trouble with difficult names, because I can totally respect that, if you go to babayagamask.com, you'll stumble upon that novel and all of my greater works.
Okay. Thank you so much for your brilliance and your word magic and bringing Baba Yaga alive on the pages for us, and all your scholarly research and creative writing. It's just so inspiring to me, and I want to learn more about Baba Yaga. You've really kind of lit the flame, and I mean, I've always been interested in her, but now I'm even more interested in studying Baba Yaga. So thank you, and blessed be, and best of luck on your new book. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Bridget. I could talk on this stuff all day. It's been an honor.
Yeah, I definitely want to listen to one of your workshops or events. And also, you're on social media, Instagram,
Yes.
Facebook. Okay, great.
Yes, yes, yes. Look up my name. Again, Kris Spisak. It's Kris. Last name Spisak, Spisak. On Instagram, I have a whole lot of fun. That's where I do a lot of my literary historian work, where I'm really diving into the subtleties of different stories across world history and different word origin stories and where they come from. Because again, language and storytelling fascinate me to my core, and there are so many stories to be told.
Yes, there are. And history is always changing and evolving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more we know, the more empowered we all are.
That's so true. And thanks again to all our listeners for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day or evening, Kris, and blessed be.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
it's just really apropos that here it is Lam's time again. So this is The Mother Shares Her Love. Okay.
Okay.
The mother shares her love in the falling rain. The mother shares her love in the corn and grain. The mother shares her love in the warm hearth fire. The mother shares her love in the breeze that flies. Great Mother, may we share with you our gift of song. We raise our voices joyfully, we raise them strong. Oh, Mother, we are grateful for all you do, and we have come together now in praise of you. The mother shares her love in the falling rain. The mother shares her love in the corn and grain. The mother shares her love in the warm hearth fire. The mother shares her love in the breeze that flies. Great Mother, may we share with you our gift of song. We raise our voices joyfully, we raise them strong. Oh, Mother, we are grateful for all you do, and we have come together now in praise of you. And we have come together now in praise of you.
Woo! Love it. Love it. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
A lot of people, I guess, use that as like a food blessing at like feasts and things, like, which I think is really super cool. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I love that you wrote that in the falling rain.
Yeah,
The
I
chalice
did.
well.
Yeah, so I have 4 albums that are kind of based on myth and magic and chant. So there's Lady Moon, I Walk with the Goddess, Elemental, and the Ancient Ones. Those are all original, and I have friends that of songs that I have taken and turned a little chant into something and recorded it. So there's some that are other writers produced by
Yeah.
me in my versions of things, and then I have 2 traditional albums. One is called Traditions, and I have all kinds of special guests on there, like Wendy Rule, obviously, and Dragon Ritual drummers, and just my wonderful friends. And then I have a duo album I did with Jenna Green called Fairy's Love Song, which is kind of Irish and Scottish folk, and it's harp and vocal harmonies. So I have 6 CDs out there, a couple traditional and 4 original. So yeah, check them out. You can get them on every streaming platform, whatever your platform is. If you search Kellyanna, you're going to find all of it, and YouTube. So easy to find.
Yeah, so much beautiful music. Thank you so much, Kellyanna, for coming on the show today. And thank you for all your powerfully magical music and chants and your contribution to the goddess and pagan community. It's been an honor chatting with you today and learning about your experiences and your background and how your spirituality weaves in with your music. It's just really been really cool chatting with you today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Bridget. I know we had some challenges getting to this point, but I'm so glad that we persevered
I
here.
know.
It was
Yeah.
definitely worth all the effort. It always is, right? The things that are kind of hard to achieve are usually the most rewarding. So I'm grateful for your patience on getting us together. I truly appreciate you, asking me to come on your show. I'm
Bless.
grateful for what you're doing to get, these messages out and giving people a platform to share. It's really
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you. It's important that the goddess speaks. That's my mission.
Indeed, indeed. We keep speaking her name and talking about her, and the gods, they never die. They only
That's
they,
right.
they only die when we stop telling their stories and we stop honoring them. So it's
Right.
my mission in life to keep telling the stories and to keep, talking about the goddess.
That's a beautiful mission and so powerful too. Blessed be. And thanks to all our listeners out there for joining us today.
Merry meet everyone, and farewell.
Farewell. Blessed be. Bye-bye.